For young, upcoming students such as ourselves, in the next couple of years, we'll be faced with a dilemma, and that's whether or not to attend college. If you're anything like me who plans to attend college, there's more that we have to think about than what we're going to major in, where we're going to college at, or who we're going to room with. We have to talk about how we're going to pay for college, and that's exactly what I'm going to be discussing today with student loans. I'll be going over an introduction, then the context of student loans, the consequences of those student loans, my personal solution, and then finally a conclusion. I remember as a young kid, I listened to my parents talk about their debts and their loans that they had to pay off, and I didn't know what they meant, so I thought everything was going to be okay. But I couldn't be further from the truth. Debt comes in many different forms, but for young students such as ourselves who are going off to college in the next couple of years, one of the most prominent types of debt that we will see very quickly in our lives is student loan debt. And for those of us who plan to attend college, the vast majority of us will have to take out a student loan at some point in time, almost like a milestone. But what most people don't realize is that there are different types of student loans, and they are primarily designed as a predatory trap, planned out to inhibit your future plans and consistently extract money from your pockets. It sounds messed up, right? So why isn't it talked about more? Why isn't the issue more widely known? I truly believe that it's due to the desensitization of the topic as a whole. Like I said previously, taking out a student loan is almost like a milestone in your collegiate journey at this point. It's so common that most people don't even bat an eye when they realize that they have to take out a student loan in order to afford college. What would happen if awareness was raised and people researched what they were getting themselves into when they take out a student loan? I truly believe that it would solve an overwhelming amount of issues that go on in our society today. A truly astounding amount of problems stem from the root cause of debt, especially debt that accumulates early on in our lives, such as student loans. People get trapped in perpetual cycles of poverty, unable to escape or accumulate generational wealth for themselves. And oftentimes, people have weaker retirement plans due to paying off student loans. Even the racial wealth gap is influenced by student loans. In a society where student debt is only increasing each year, solutions need to be recognized. Awareness must be raised for solutions currently available, and realization needs to be achieved on the context and history of student loans and how they function. With this information, people can save themselves a lifelong of trouble, or at the very least, help get relief when they can. For starters, let's visualize how big of an issue student loan debt really is. Student loan debt in the United States totals $1.727 trillion, and only in 2023 did we see the first ever annual decline in student loan debt. The outstanding federal loan balance is $1.602 trillion and accounts for 92.8% of all student loan debt. 43.2 million borrowers have federal student loan debt. And the average federal student loan debt balance is $37,088, while the total average balance, including private loan debt, may be as high as $39,981. Less than 2% of private student loans enter default as of 2021's fourth financial quarter, and the average public university student borrows $32,637 to attain a bachelor's degree. Now that you know some of the statistics, I used Calculator.net's amortization calculator to really put this into perspective. Hypothetically, I took out the average bachelor's degree loan of $32,637 over the average term of 20 years, with the average federal loan interest of 6%. I found that if you were to pay your monthly $231.89 for 20 years, you end up paying $55,652 in total, almost doubling the amount that you ended up taking out in the first place. That is absurd. Now, I realize that a lot of people probably don't know the real difference between student loans, and I, for one, thought that student loans were all the same thing before I started researching. At the most basic level, there are two types of student loans: federal and private student loans. StudentAid.gov describes the difference as so. Federal student loans and federal parent loans are loans funded by the federal government. Private student loans are non-federal loans made by a lender, such as a bank, credit union, student agency, or a school that you're attending. Furthermore, Federal student loans are made by the government with terms and conditions that are set by law and include many benefits such as fixed interest rates and income-driven repayment plans that are not typically offered with private loans. In contrast, private loans are made by private organizations such as banks, credit unions, state-based or state-affiliated organizations, and have terms and conditions that are set by the lender that you are going through. Private student loans are generally more expensive than federal student loans. Now, although the ideal situation is to not have to take out either type of student loan, the better pathway would be to finance federally. As federal student loans, they are financed via set laws that everybody would have to go through, leveling the playing field. Going through private student loans is usually much more expensive, hence being the more predatory type of student loan. While federal loans mainly stay at the same interest rate, going through private student loans can lead you into deceiving traps of payment plans, only there to make it seem like it's all sunshine and rainbows when obviously it's really not. Now that we've gotten the basics of student loans out of the way, let's get into the real meat of this, the consequences. Perpetual cycles of poverty can easily be seen as one of the worst parts of life. Being trapped in the butt of our economic system doesn't sound enjoyable in the slightest, especially when you realize that escaping the cycle of poverty has very slim chances of success when you're consistently having to pay off the debt that you took out 20 years ago when you were still in college. You won't be able to increase your generational wealth, meaning that you may leave a not-so-comfortable lifestyle awaiting your children. And if there was a concrete way to stop this from being a thing, I'm sure it would have happened by now. Student loan debt significantly increases your chances of becoming part of this cycle. Evicted by author Matthew Desmond talks about the cycle of perpetual poverty. The book follows along with multiple different families in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, each of which are struggling with poverty after the 2007-2008 financial crisis. The book mainly focuses on housing instability, something that is still a prominent issue today, but was extremely prevalent during the time period of Evicted. Many of these families are stuck in the cycle of poverty with no clear way out due to their financial situation and the financial situation of Milwaukee. Without being able to escape poverty, it inhibits your ability to do multiple things that I'm sure many of us are planning to do in the future. Stable housing is a prominent example seen in Evicted. Accumulation of generational wealth becomes an extreme hardship when having to deal with other things in the present, such as finding stable housing, or putting food on the table for your children, or even paying off your debt from college, or an accumulation of any of those things. Taking away even one thing that you might have to focus on paying off in your future can drastically increase your chances of not only staying out of poverty, but creating generational wealth for yourself. And it will overall just help your chances of living a comfortable life. Housing insecurity is just one of the many problems that stem from the student debt crisis. According to Jennifer Riskis, an architect, 86% of the American Institute of Architect members who have yet to pay off their student loans struggle with saving for retirement due to their monthly payments. Furthermore, a staggering 83% of the same demographic reported that it was difficult to buy a house. And even further, 65% reported that they were struggling to start a family. Each of these problems stem from one overarching, continually increasing issue: student loan debt. To make matters worse, all of the problems that stem from student loan debt have their own consequences. If you can't save for retirement, how will you quit your job? How will you retire? If you're unable to buy a house, what will your future life look like for you and your family? If you're unable to start a family, what's going to happen to your bloodline? And I realize that all of these things are very somber topics, but they need to be faced in order to achieve the magnitude of how much of a problem student loan debt really is. According to Aaron Velez et al. In Education Economics, Volume 27, Issue 2, their study found that after 4 years after college graduation and achieving a bachelor's degree, accumulated undergraduate debt has a direct financial impact on earnings, job choice, net worth, and also it affects decisions to marry and have children. So no, the 65% of people that struggle with starting a family aren't just socially awkward or bad on dates. It's a real thing. Debt doesn't just mess up your college experience, it has the capacity to mess up your entire life after college. Student loan debt also contributes to the racial wealth gap, another significant ongoing issue within the United States. Although it may not affect everybody, finding a solution to student debt could be a crucial piece to help fight for inequality within our nation. According to Venu Kakar et al. In Journal of Consumer Affairs, student debt has minimal effect on the Hispanic-white racial wealth gap, but had a 7% effect on the black-white racial wealth gap. Have you noticed a trend? It seems like other extremely prevalent issues going on in the world are stemming from student loan debt. And that's why solving student loan debt is key to easing those issues going on. Leaving the student loan debt situation how it is right now would only worsen the status quo. And ignorance is not bliss. I can't stress that enough. Compare it to chopping down a tree. It gets rid of everything above the trunk. In this case, we must act swiftly and cut the root cause of these evils, which is the student loan crisis. My solution to this issue already mainly exists within the world. Although I believe that there should be some policy making so as to increase funding for current solutions or create programs to help relieve student loan debt, we should be raising awareness of current solutions in society right now. Programs such as national debt relief are great resources to help undermine the cost of student debt. Some government jobs are able to pay off your student loans in their entirety after working a certain amount of years, although that may only be feasible for people looking to go into the public sector. That method of student loan repayment is called Public Service Loan Forgiveness, or PSLF. Another way to work towards financial freedom from student debt is to refinance. Stay with me now. While this may not be the best way, if you're desperate, it's good to know that it's there. If you took out a private student loan or a mix of private and federal loans, you're able to refinance by taking out a loan to pay off your student loan. It sounds confusing, I know, but it works. You would have to make a 1 monthly payment to your new private lender, and in some cases, this can lead to smaller interest rates, which is the way to go. Otherwise, you're better off trying to pay them off in other ways. The absolute best way to not go down this entire rabbit hole that I've been speaking about for the last however many minutes is to educate yourself on the danger of not only debt, but student loans, and learn what will work best for you when that time comes for you. I know that I myself didn't know 1% of what I know now about student loans, and I hope to share that knowledge with all of you as upcoming students. Simply educating yourself on the proper steps to take when taking out student loans or repaying them is a massive step towards financial freedom in your future. I know that as myself, I want to keep money for myself when I'm older because I like spending money, and I'm sure a lot of you feel the same way. So heed my advice. Student loan debt is an overarching issue that is the root cause of multiple other problems seen in our economy and our society. And since the issue is only getting prevalent and worsening year after year, we need to find a concrete solution or at least raise awareness for the current solutions in society right now. That's why I'm doing this TED Talk, in order to raise awareness and knowledge of one of the most normalized predatory traps in current day society. Educating yourself on student loans and debt in general can be a huge financial step towards freedom and independence later on in your lives, and it's best to learn now and not regret it later. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.